All right, well, we're here today to talk about the STEM Meets the Challenge of the Pandemic project, and this is specifically an orientation session for STEM professionals who are interested in contributing a video interview. So we'll do a brief overview of the project as a whole, and then we'll get into talking about the specifics of what the interviews are like. So this is a project that is organized and coordinated, designed by Engineering Alliance Minnesota, which is an organization that serves professional engineers in the state, and in partnership with a number of sponsoring organizations. Our presenting sponsors are 3M, Bolton and Mank, and Medtronic, and there's also a number of other organizations that are supporting this project as well. So the main purpose of this project is to be an online educational resource that highlights the many ways that scientists, engineers, and other STEM professionals make the world a better place by solving problems and answering questions about the COVID-19 pandemic. And there are a few different features of the project as well. We're going to launch in early winter, so probably within the next week, our website will go live. And this will be combined with a social media campaign, but it's a soft launch that will have ongoing to get the word out to people working in STEM industries, educators in classrooms, as well as in after-school programs, students, parents, and other stakeholders in STEM education. A big component of the project is a STEM career exploration opportunity for students. One thing that we've learned because of COVID-19 and distance learning is the opportunities that young people have to think about the next steps in their career beyond high school, for example, have kind of gone away. You know, there's many professionals that spend time meeting with students in person, with mentoring in after school programs like robotics teams and math clubs, and visiting classrooms to talk about their careers, and that hasn't been able to happen. So Engineering Alliance is looking for a way to be able to fill this gap in a way that works with the constraints of distance learning. And so what we're putting together is a series of STEM career profiles that will be eventually cut down to 5 to 10 minute recorded interviews that will be hosted on a dedicated website, and they'll be recorded using Zoom. There are also some of the STEM professionals we're working with that are interested in recording their own video tours of their laboratories or their facilities they work at. And some of these professionals as well are interested in participating in follow-up live virtual mentoring opportunities, for example, visiting a biology classroom and talking to students and the teacher. And that's something that will help coordinate as well for those who are interested. The project will culminate with a professional summit, and this will happen in the spring, probably in May. And this will be, kind of like a virtual conference, a live virtual event. And the primary audience for this are people working in STEM industries, as well as college students that are majoring in STEM and graduate students majoring in STEM. So there, again, there was a highlight. So the focus of today's meeting is about the STEM career exploration component, really fleshing out the details of that. So hopefully people who are interested have all the information they need to be able to participate. All right, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the different components of what the recorded interviews will look like, why we're doing it, and what it looks like. So the main purpose, in addition to filling the gap that's been created by distance learning, is to introduce students in grades 7 through 12 and potentially some early college students as well to a variety of STEM professionals and the careers that they have. And again, mentioned that we're trying to fill the mentoring gap that's been created by the COVID-19 pandemic. We hoped that we'll provide a resource that will help students make some sort of personal connection with people who have STEM careers and inspire them to be interested in following a STEM career pathway themselves. And another big piece of this, because of what's happening in the world right now, we are focusing the STEM professionals that we're working with for these interviews on people that are working related to the COVID-19 pandemic in some way. And the ways that this connection can be made are quite broad. There's the obvious things from people working with medical devices and personal protective equipment, but there's also people working with air quality systems, with sanitation, with regulation, with data analysis, with vaccine distribution, with ensuring that the regular pathways of goods and services are continuing to be accessible. So it could be supply chain, transportation, water quality, all kinds of things like that. We're working with a wide variety of scientists and engineers in all kinds of jobs at large and small companies. So the basic storyline for the interview, and we'll provide interested interviewees with a list of sample questions to consider before their interview, is to share information about their professional identity, so the job that they do, where they work, and then also make at least an initial mention of the COVID pandemic connection at this point. Then we also are inviting people to share some personal stories, so things about their hobbies, interests, significant life experiences, if there's anything about their families that they would like to share, and then this will morph into talking about the educational pathway. So primarily focusing on high school to career, but if there's a significant event that happened to you when you were younger, for example, inspiring situation in elementary school, or something, someone you met when you were quite young, or anything like that, that's important. We like to hear those stories as well. Then we'll go into kind of talking about a day in the life, and thinking about this as how you go about answering the questions that you're looking at, or solving the problems you're looking into, what the work is, what the process is like, how you work with other people, the different sorts of scientific and engineering skills and practices and processes you use, those sorts of things. Part of what this number 4 is hoping to help us to do is to share with students, help them make connections between the types of things they're learning to do in school and the types of things that you do in your job. So for example, students are learning to collaborate, work in teams. They're learning to communicate their findings. They're learning to make evidence-based arguments. They're learning how to pose questions and set up experiments, or to come up with possible solutions to a problem and prototype them. All those sorts of things they're doing in their classrooms and in their after-school programs. And so how the work that you do connects to those actual things that they're learning will help make their educational experience real. And then, of course, there will be the opportunity to talk about the connection to the pandemic in more detail. So what it is, what role you're playing in helping us manage the pandemic and hopefully end it in the near future. So this is just an example of what the website looks like. So if this were the live website instead of a screenshot, we would be able to then scroll, and then we would see the rest of the interviews that are following below. These are 2 people that have been our earliest interviewees, and it will be about somewhere between a 5 and 10 minute video that will be edited from a longer Zoom session. And then, as we show you here, this information. These videos will also all be hosted on YouTube, a public YouTube channel that can be accessed. And scientists and engineers and other STEM professionals that are interviewed will be free to share their videos in other ways as well. And in fact, we'll encourage people to do that to help bring visibility to this project and have as many people as possible benefit from the resources that we're putting together. So in terms of the interview process, and hopefully you're all still interested in participating after you've learned more about the project here, is we have an online form that's a Google form that if you have not received it, we'll send to you in an email. And this allows you to share some basic information with us about you and your work and the best ways to contact you. As you do that, you'll also receive a link to an online scheduling system that will allow you to go in and choose your interview time if you want. If you don't go in and do that directly, our interviewer will also contact you within a few days after submitting your Google form to reach out and find out what times might work best for you. Then we also, in the information you'll receive in the this has been sent out in some of our introductory information, but it will also be sent to you in the confirmation for your interview time slot. We have a handout with some tips about setting up for a Zoom interview so that we can maximize the quality of the recording. And then also what the basic interview questions are that we'll be asking. Those will be customized between you and the interviewer based on your specific job and interests and all of that, but we'll basically follow the storyline that I shared on the previous page. This will then be recorded through Zoom, and the time length of the recording, we ask you to set up an hour interview session. We're probably somewhere between 30 and 45 minutes is the time that it will take. It will depend on how prepared you are coming in, what sorts of additional follow-up questions the interviewer has for you. Our interviewer is a college student who's majoring in a STEM field, a Minnesota resident who's going to college in New York State. And so that's who you'll meet at the time of the interview. His name is Owen. After the interview is recorded, Owen then goes through the interview and looks for opportunities to insert other images. For example, if you talk about aspects of your work or maybe a significant event in your personal life or things like that, and he'll follow up with a request for you to upload some images or potentially some other video that you have, and then he'll edit that into the video. So essentially he goes through your 40-minute interview, cuts it down to somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes, puts supplemental images in, an intro and an ending, and then it's done. So gets it to a 5 to 10 minute video, and then he'll send it off to you where you have a chance to approve the video. If your employer needs to do it, then that will be the opportunity for you to do that as well. And of course, Engineering Alliance signs off on the final videos as well. And at that point, we post it on our project website, share it via social media, because some of the interviews will come live after the website first launches. We will send social media updates as new interviews are added as well. And with that, I will open up the floor to questions.